Oh, hi YouTubeverse, John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, bringing you another Viva La Vinyl album review. And today I am so excited to be talking to you about one of my very favorite records of all time, Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Such a magnificent album. It is my second favorite Pink Floyd record under Dark Side of the Moon. That is just a perfect masterpiece that cannot be topped. But this came right after it in 1975, and I'm just stuck on the artwork. And check this out. On vinyl, this is a picture disc. The album cover is on the actual record. So cool. And the back cover art is also on side B here, which in its own right is an amazing album cover. You got, this could have been an album cover with the Pink Floyd salesman, as I call him, with no hands in the desert. Such a weird, creepy, and cool image. But then, I mean, you can't beat this. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the best album cover of all time. It is on the top of my list, which you can check out here, top 10 album covers, for various reasons. I mean, aside from the fact that it's so cool looking, it also has a lot to say, and it goes thematically with what the album is trying to say, with like an empty gesture of a handshake and getting burned, literally here. Storm Thurgerson, who does the art direction here and created the cover art for this, as well as Dark Side of the Moon and many of their other well-known album covers, did an amazing job. And the fact that there's an actual person on fire here, that is serious. They put a flame retardant suit with a hood on this guy underneath a business suit and a wig, and he stood there while he was being lit on fire for this photo. Is just incredible to me. So that alone ranks this in my top 100 albums of all time. But then when you get to the music, oh my gosh, it's so good. As I said, thematically, there's heavy themes in this album. I personally didn't count this on my top 10 concept albums of all time list. And the reason for that is, it can be heavily argued that this is in fact a concept album, but I feel like even though there are those heavy themes of being absent as a friend, as just a human being, also, you know, succumbing to the pressures of the music industry and kind of losing your way and all that's in here, absolutely. But to me, more than a concept album, I feel that Wish You Were Here is a true love letter to Syd Barrett, who founded Pink Floyd and was on their first record, and sadly afterwards had to leave the band due to heavy drug use and basically having a nervous breakdown, ended up being in a mental institute, and all these songs are basically for him, especially the opening track, Shine On You Crazy Diamond, which they're referring to Syd as the Crazy Diamond, and they're doing it, and I think that's the most beautiful thing about this record, is the way that Roger Waters and David Gilmour, but mostly Waters, wrote this lyrically. It's a fine line, it's a balancing act when you think about it, because you could easily not just go into, of course, like cheesy territory when you're writing about somebody that you love and that you miss, but also it's kind of a sensitive subject, someone that, and it hadn't really been done before in this way, someone being directly written about or referenced that had kind of gone insane, and do it and still honoring his memory and doing it in a loving manner that doesn't, while still being truthful, like calling him a crazy diamond. That's what he was. And you know, it's such a cool song musically. I have to talk about the directions they were taking. Of course, Dark Side of the Moon, incredible. Pink Floyd had already expanded their sound so much, but on this one they use a lot more synthesizers than they had even on Dark Side, and they do it. Pink Floyd's just one of those few bands who really knew how to use synthesizers in a way that elevated the music, and especially the intro of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. It sounds so futuristic, very unlike anything they'd done before. The sounds that they use, it almost sounds like it could be the theme music for the film Blade Runner or something. It's very cool, and it takes its time to really get into it, and for the guitars to even come in, let alone the lyrics. And I think that's really important for this record, as is with many records. We live in an age now where we have such short attention spans, and this is such a rewarding listen because it kind of forces you from the get-go to just kind of take your time with it, let it sink in, let it give you the vibe that you need to have to continue on with the rest of this album. It is truly, just Shine On You Crazy Diamond is amazing. And David Gilmour's guitar work, especially on that track, oh man, I just love Pink Floyd so much because they were so ahead of their time in so many ways musically, but at the same time, they loved and were rooted in blues music. And you can hear it so much in David Gilmour's guitar playing. Even though it's spacey, it's also very bluesy, especially on that track. So, that's track 1. I've gone on way too long already, but the next track, Welcome to the Machine, goes back to that kind of theme, storyline, where you're introducing this new person who's innocent into a world of, like any job, you're in a machine, and it's kind of a depressing track. It's actually one of my lesser favorites on the album, even though it is very well known. The acoustic guitar sounds so crisp and cool on this, and at the same time they have these strange sound effects. Again, the progressive Pink Floyd here, taking you into just uncharted territories and really giving you a sense of, like, you feel like a film is enveloping with this record. It's so cool. Just like Dark Side, I love it. And that's side 1. There's only 5 songs on this album, folks. You would think it's an EP, but it's 45 plus minutes in length total, so it's really worth your money for the LP that this is. Have a Cigar, now we're on side 2, is another very well-known track. The music on this is so cool. It's, again, coming back to that bluesy vibe, more of a rock swagger on this song, and they also keep true to those synthesizers. Rick Wright is so great on this album in just trying out new sounds that he hadn't tried before, and 1975 was just such a cool year in general for music, with Zeppelin and Elton John just taking new risks, elevating music to new heights with new technology, and Rick Wright just does an awesome job on this song. Interesting fact that the vocals on this track are neither Roger Waters or David Gilmour. It's actually their friend Roy Harper, who sounds similar to both of them. Sometimes it's kind of hard to distinguish Waters and Gilmour, let alone throwing in this Roy Harper guy who was recording at Abbey Road at the time. But yeah, apparently Waters had done a long session on Shine On You Crazy Diamond, and his voice, I guess, had got blown out, and he asked Roy if he would do it, and I think Roy does a good job. I think he fits right in, and Pink Floyd is one of those bands that can pull stuff like that off. It's when, the music is so big, and they have, female background vocals on top of and saxophone. Man, I love the saxophone that they add into these songs. It's so beautiful and tasteful. Pink Floyd is just classy, you know what I mean? I'd have to put them for sure in my top 5 bands of all time. And that classiness, that bluesiness is what does it for me. So now we're at Wish You Were Here, the title song of the album. What can I say about Wish You Were Here that hasn't been said? It's truly one of probably the greatest songs ever, period. Definitely one of the greatest Pink Floyd songs ever. So beautiful, the lyrics, I could recite them all now for you, but it wouldn't do it justice. You just have to listen to the song, and you can hear the heart and the soul that the whole band comes together. And I think this is really probably Pink Floyd's pinnacle moment as a band working together, a healthy band working together toward a common goal to create a beautiful song. I think after this is when Waters started becoming a little more controlling as a band leader, and the band itself was starting to self-destruct on Animals, on The Wall, and thereafter. But this here, man, Nick Mason, of course, on drums as well, very subdued, which he should be on Wish You Were Here. But it's such a slow build, just like the album itself, and it pays off into just one of the most beautiful songs ever recorded. And then the album is bookended by Shine On You Crazy Diamond parts 6 through 10. On side A it was 1 through 5. Typical Pink Floyd style of doing things. I guess it's nice to have, but it definitely doesn't rival the side A, Shine On You Crazy Diamond. Although it is cool to have it bookended the way it is, it's probably my least favorite track on the album. But I can't really complain. I think this is a near perfect record. It's definitely one of Pink Floyd's many masterpieces. I give this a 9 out of 10. I highly recommend it if you haven't listened to it. Take your time to listen to it like any great record, and you will not be disappointed. Guys, I really appreciate you watching this video. If you like this, please click on like, click on subscribe, check out some of my other videos here, and I promise you I've got a lot more coming. Viva La Vinyl, and I will see you soon.